Hello, welcome back to the channel, and this is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings. We generally like to talk a lot of bollocks, tabletop gaming in general. And in this video, we're going to be talking about a worker placement / tower defense game. We're going to be talking about After the Empire, and in this game, you will be constructing your castle to fend off a variety of invaders, hiring different personalities that will allow you to amass a load of gold that will allow you to win the game. So in this video, we're going to be giving you a very brief overview of the rules. We'll be telling you what we do like, what we don't like. We'll come back and we'll tell you whether or not After the Empire is worth your time or bother today and in the future. So remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Hit the like button and all that YouTube bullshit, and we will see you after this. Bollocks! So, After the Empire, how'd you play this game? So After the Empire is a worker placement / tower defense game, right? Everyone's going to get a castle board. They're going to get a basic castle to stick in the center of the board. You're going to get a certain number of soldiers, and you're going to start with a certain amount of gold. Gold is points, but it's also currency, and the more gold you get, the more chance you've got of getting attacked by the invaders, right? Whilst you want to get enough gold to win the game, because the person with the most gold at the end of the game is going to be the winner, you want to make sure you haven't got that much gold, which is going to make you a target for attack, right? So the game consists of 7 rounds. In each round, you'll be placing workers out onto the board to take actions. Then the invaders will attack and you'll have a round of combat. So on your turn, you will take one of your workers and you'll dump it on one of the spots, right? So some of the actions you can take the tax action, in which case you'll get 4 gold, 1 mercenary and 1 food. You're going to need food to feed your soldiers, whether they're injured or in tip-top condition. You don't need food to feed mercenaries because they are expendable and you can just turn the bog off. So you can go to the mercenary camp. You'll be able to hire soldiers for 5 money or 4 money, and you'll be able to hire mercenaries for 3 money and 2 money. There's 2 different spots here, so the quicker you are getting here, the cheaper it's going to be. You can go to the traveling merchant, and this is where you'll be able to buy and sell different types of goods, right? You can go to the scout if you want. This will allow you to draw 2 secret objective cards, and you'll be able to pick one and discard the other one. Everybody starts with 1 secret objective anyway. These are generally the standard types of things that you're going to get, where you'll get a certain amount of gold for having the most of a certain type of card or different stuff like that. So you can go and get some resources. You can go and get stone, you can go and get iron, and you can go and get wood. You can buy different types of buildings, right? You might want to get hold of the vineyard, and this gives you a discount of 1 gold and 1 food on each of the refugee cards that I'm going to talk about in a bit, you impatient little shits. You might want to get hold of the chapel. This is going to cost you 1 gold. It's not going to give you any victory points, and you can tap this card to heal 2 soldiers that are in your infirmary. Or you could maybe get the red castle in for 2 gold and 1 stone. It gives you a victory point at the end of the game. It gives you an extra space where you could hire 4 mercenaries, right? These are very, very tasty prospects, but sometimes they could be very expensive, but they do give you victory points at the end of the game. Similarly, you can go to the refugee spot if you want, and this is where you'll be able to hire different personalities that are going to give you different benefits, a bit like buildings. Whilst buildings are inanimate objects, these are real flesh and blood people, and I'm going to stop talking out my ass. So you might want to get hold of the woodsman. It's going to cost you 2 food and a gold. It's going to give you a victory point at the end of the game, and when you take the card, you get 5 gold, and when you go to the wood mill, you'll get 2 extra wood, right? You'll end up with a big wooden stiffy. Or you might want to grab hold of that tax band, and it says whenever you take the tax action, you'll get +2 gold and +1 grub. Or you might want to get the Blackmoor traitor. I don't know if this was a reference to the old D&D scenario, but when you take the scout action, you'll be able to get another telescope. A telescope allows you to rearrange your troops during the preparation phase for combat. More on that later, sunshine. And it also allows you to get 2 mercenaries. So these are basically the same as buildings, but for some bizarre reason, they call them refugees. So there's also action spaces on your player board. You can go to the infirmary, in which case you'll be able to heal 4 of your injured soldiers, right? You'll be able to dump them back in the castle so they can get killed again. You can go to the granary. This allows you to sow 3 times and then protect 1 farm. Sow 3 times means that you can upgrade your farm that produces 2 food instead of Tier 1, or if it's been burnt to the ground by these pesky invaders, then you can rectify it, right? You protect a farm by placing a token on it, and this means it cannot get raised by those pesky invaders, right? So the stockpile action is where most of the creativity in this game takes place, yeah? This is where you'll be upgrading your castle or rebuilding it if you've played really shit and you've got your arse spanked by the invaders. You'll be able to trade in wood or stone to build wooden walls or stone walls. You'll be able to build a turret for a bit of wood. You'll be able to transform or just build a stone turret if you've got 3 wood, 4 stone and an iron, right? And that concludes the rather drawn out and protracted action phase. So now we go on to the combat phase. I'm not going to spend too much time waffling about this because it does my head in at the best of times, right? But basically what you're going to be doing, you're going to have a combat preparation phase, right? There's always going to be one invader card that is visible, and you'll see the invaders will attack from a certain position based on your orientation around the table. Depending on what round it is, you might have multiple of these to deal with. There's also going to be a siege card that's going to be revealed. This will tell you whether or not there's going to be a siege attack, whether some geezers are going to use a big fuck off trampoline and jump over the walls into your courtyard, and then you will arrange your troops around the castle walls or stick them in your courtyard. Invaders will raise the unprotected fields to the ground so they become inoperable or they get degraded, and you'll be able to move a number of troops based on the telescope tokens that you got during the worker placement phase, right? So once you've gone through all that crap, then you'll be able to move on to the actual combat phase itself. Finally, you'll be able to actually have a bit of a scrap. Your first phase is the archery phase. This is where troops on your battlements will fire down against the archers that have appeared below them, right? So there'll be like a tit for tat type of thing, and you'll lose 1 for 1. Also got the protection of your wooden turrets that will deal damage, and your stone turrets will deal 2 damage, yeah? Then you'll go into the movement phase where any invaders that are facing an open space will move into your courtyard, and then any troops that are in your courtyard will then deal 1 for 1 damage with the invaders. You'll then have a melee step where each invader outside the castle does 1 damage to every troop that's on the battlements, and then you'll return to the archery step unless there's no invaders remaining anywhere on your player board, yeah? And then you'll do a little bit of cleanup. You will stop talking like I am going to do now, and you'll stop waffling on about this brain-achingly nightmarish scenario which is combat. So you'll keep doing this, you'll keep putting workers onto the board, you'll keep building up your castle, you keep trying to repel the invaders. You'll try not to get sacked, because if your castle gets sacked then you will lose a certain amount of gold points, which is going to be detrimental to you winning the game sometimes, right? And at the end of the 7th round you'll do a bit of final scoring. You'll get the amount of gold that is listed on your refugee cards and building cards that aren't damaged, right? You get the total number of gold on all the flag tokens that you would have collected throughout the game. You'll get 1 gold for every active farm that you got, and then you reveal any secret objectives, and then the player with the most gold will be the winner of After the Empire. So what do we like about After the Empire? So the first thing that we really like about this game is that the worker placement aspect is at the same time both simple and familiar. We have played all of this stuff before. It reminds me a lot like Stone Age and Lords of Waterdeep and all the other copycat basic Euro games that have plagued you or you've been enjoying in abundance for the last 25 to 30 years, right? It's almost like they've just taken a bog standard Euro and then dumped it on the table. It feels like a lot of the aspects of other worker placement games have literally been transplanted into this. You've got the special abilities on the cards, you've got the resource extraction, you've got a secret objective thing that you see in games like Archipelago and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, whilst some people might say that this makes the game stale, I don't think so, because it's a piece of piss to explain it, because everyone's done this before, and for once it keeps things fucking simple, doesn't it? You know what I mean? So the second thing that we really like about this game is the gold as points and currency works really, really well. This reminds us of a mechanism that was implemented really successfully in a Reiner Knizia game called Medici. In Medici, it's an auction-based game where the money that you acquire is your victory points, but you'll be needing to spend money in order to get more money that's going to give you more points, right? And it's the same here. The thing that differentiates this from other games of this type is that the more gold you get, the more of a target you're going to be. So you're going to have to sort of find a way of reining in your greed, which is always a difficult thing when you're dealing with these types of games, yeah? So one of the things we really like about games like this, there's a tussle between acquiring stuff and not acquiring too much, right? So the third thing that we really like about this, and you can't have a review about this game without mentioning the way that it's been blinged out of its arsehole. There's no getting away from it. The lumps of plastic in this game are absolutely superb, and you don't just get one type of castle, you don't just get a wooden castle, but you get a big fuck off stone castle to show off to the other people that ain't got one. So yeah, whilst it's not entirely necessary, a lot of these games may have just given you sort of cardboard tokens, which would have made the game a little bit cheaper, right? But there's no getting away from it. It's just a fantastic feeling to start playing around with these big lumps of plastic on your player board, right? Super. So what don't we like? but after the Empire. So the first thing that we don't like about this game is the combat system is a fucking pain in the fucking ass. Yeah, I mean, it just does my fucking head in. Think about the worst hangover you've ever had, multiply it by 1 billion, and then walk into a room with 10,000 screaming children and sit there all bloody day, yeah? That's how much of a migraine you're going to have trying to figure out the combat system in this game, yeah? Not only that, but it takes bloody ages. I mean, especially if you're playing with new players, because they're not going to have a bloody clue how to resolve the combat steps, so you're going to have to do it one by one. Somebody is going to have to hold their hand through this multiple times, yeah? It's going to get to the point where you just don't give a fuck. You're going to be sweating, you're going to be tired, your brain is going to be hurting, and it's in stark contrast to the ease of use of the worker placement portion, right? This should have been streamlined down to the point where you just follow a few logical steps and you are done. But no, there's all these different permutations with what can be attacked by who and how much damage this does when this happens and when that happens, what the siege bastards are going to be chucking over your castle. It does my nutting. So yeah, someone's going to have to come up with a way of streamlining this absolutely fucking stupid combat system. So the second thing that we don't like about this is that the resources on the main board seem to be a little bit unbalanced. And what I mean by that is that there's always a run on stone, right? Because everyone's going to want to upgrade their castle to a stone turret and a stone walls, right? So the stone spaces are going to be hotly contested, while the wood spaces are going to be avoided like someone who's just shit himself on a bus. So the third thing that we don't like about this, and this is one of the things that I really don't understand about this game, is that you don't necessarily have to build up your castle in order to progress, right? I've seen this on multiple occasions where one of my opponents has just had their castle destroyed. They can't afford to build up again, and they decided that they're just going to leave their castle wide open, right? They're going to get sacked, right? They know it's going to happen, so they're just saying, let the chips fall where they may. And they might lose a bit of gold, but they're looking at the refugee cards and the building cards, and these cards are going to bump your gold out. There's one card that gives you 8 gold each round, yeah? So if you can get hold of that, then getting sacked isn't a major problem. So there is a strategy in this game where you don't actually have to build your castle up at all, and that sort of defeats the whole object of the game. I don't know if that's a deliberate thing or if it's a loophole in the game, but it's there and it's shit. So to summarise, is After the Empire worth your time and bother today and in the future? So we're going to say no. I've thought about this quite a bit. I really, really wanted to like this game, but I just couldn't bring it upon myself to recommend it. And here is why. It's a great idea in principle, but it's let down by a horrendously convoluted combat system and some glaring imbalances in the worker placement positions, right? I remember playing my first game of this thinking, fuck me, this is a masterpiece. But repeated plays have revealed some disastrous problems with this offering. I wanted to like this so much, I really did. But at the end of the day, the combat system lets it down, and it makes this game too much hard work for the rewards that it offers, right? So there you go, that is After the Empire. Remember, if you're new, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Hit the like button, subscribe, and all that YouTube bullshit. And we'll see you next Tuesday.